Is anybody in here from the state of Arkansas? Yes, I know you are, because we have strong representation on our executive board from the same. I am pleased to introduce to you Senator Tom Cotton. United States Senator from Arkansas, Senator Cotton sits on the Banking Committee, the Intelligence Committee, the Budget Committee, and the Armed Services Committee. Senator Cotton grew up on his family's cattle farm in Yell County. He graduated from Harvard and Harvard Law School. After a clerkship with the United States Courts of Appeals and private law practice, the terror attacks of 9/11 called him from the practice of law to serve for 5 years on active duty in the United States Army as an infantry officer. The senator served with the 101st Airborne Division, and between his two combat tours, served with the Old Guard at Arlington National Cemetery. The senator's military decorations include the Bronze Star Medal, Combat Infantry Badge, and Ranger Tab. Senator Cotton has sponsored several bills related to holding Iran accountable for sponsoring terrorism and violating human rights. And in response to the President's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, the senator stated, "It was an acknowledgement of the plain truth, as it has always been, and the only way to secure a just and lasting peace between Israel and the Palestinians is to build upon a foundation of truth." Can we please welcome the senator from Arkansas, Senator Tom Cotton.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for that very warm welcome and great introduction. Thank you to the entire Hagee family for having me here today, and thank you all for traveling so far to our nation's capital to speak on behalf of the nation of Israel. Thank you for all you have done, now 4 million strong, to build our friendship and our alliance with the nation of Israel. Thank you for all you did to help get my friend Mike Pompeo confirmed as our new Secretary of State. And I'll tell you, isn't it a refreshing change to have Mike as the Secretary? There'll be no more stabbing Israel in the back at the United Nations. There'll be no more ill-tempered tirades against the Israeli government. So you can know that as long as Secretary Pompeo holds that office, when America's top diplomat meets with Israel's prime minister, they will stand shoulder to shoulder, which is the way it always should be. It goes to show the difference that a single election and your hard work in an election can make. 2 years ago, our enemies were riding high all across the Middle East. ISIS had overrun Iraq. Russia had swooped into Syria and saved Bashar al-Assad and propped up Iran's influence. And Iran had hoodwinked the United States into a terrible nuclear deal and turning over more than $100 billion in sanctions relief. And how did our government react? Did they rally the West against Assad and Iran? Did they isolate the Ayatollahs? No, it was just the opposite. While Iran was building centrifuges in Natanz, the last administration was lecturing Israel for building homes in Judea and Samaria. The last administration should have followed Abraham Lincoln's old advice. Never sell old friends to buy old enemies. It does no good to feed our friends to the crocodiles in hopes that he will eat us last. But now we've started turning things around. We've withdrawn from the anti-Israel UN Human Rights Commission. We've passed the Taylor Force Act to stop subsidizing Palestinian authorities' payments to the families of terrorists. And we've withdrawn from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. And at long last, we have finally, once and for all, moved the American embassy from Tel Aviv to the capital of the nation of Israel, now and forever, the city of Jerusalem. Now, today we understand that the nation of Israel is a friend, and we should treat it like a friend. We have to present a united front, especially when it comes to Israel's security. You may have heard a lot about protesters on the border with Gaza. I have to say, when people show up on the border with heavy machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades and mortars and rockets, I don't call them protesters, I call them invaders, and they should be treated as such. And with Hamas launching that kind of coordinated military assault on Israel, it is more important than ever that we continue our partnership with Israel on missile defense technology. We should also cut funding to any United Nations organization who has recognized Palestine as a member. And lastly, we should formally declare what we already know to be true, that Israel has sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and we should recognize that fact. And we also have to confront our common enemy, Iran. That's why I've introduced new legislation to expose the ill-gotten wealth of senior Iranian regime officials and to prohibit any Iranian official involved in taking American hostages and his family from entering the United States. If you are holding an American hostage away from his children or his wife or his parents, then your wife and your kids and your family should not be vacationing in the United States of America. And we as a nation, just like Israel as a nation, should do everything we can to support perhaps the only people who have suffered more from the Ayatollahs than Americans and Israelis. We should support the noble aspirations for freedom and dignity of the Iranian people. Now, we should do these things not only because it's in our common interests, because we have a special friendship with Israel that is no accident of history and is not a mere alignment of interest. There's a reason the largest Jewish metropolitan area in the world outside Tel Aviv is New York. There's a reason the pilgrims called America the New Zion. Both of our nations are beacons of freedom in a dangerous world. And even before the modern Israel was founded, there was a special bond between America and the Jewish people, because America welcomed the Jewish people and did not feel threatened by them. In the old world, the demands of the nation-state too often clashed with the heritage of the Jewish people. You could belong to one or the other, but too often not to both. But in America, you could do just that. America is, after all, a nation of immigrants, just as Israel is today. Here, we don't think you have to abandon your heritage to be a loyal American. In fact, it's the freedom to be a Jew that causes the Jewish people to love America even more. And the American people have never seen a contradiction in the Jewish people's love for the United States and their love for their biblical homeland. In our minds, just as America would be the home of people from all walks of life who yearn for the freedom that comes with self-government, Israel would be the home of the Jewish people who for 2,000 years yearned to govern themselves in freedom once again. So ours has been a natural kinship from the very beginning. Both peoples settled the land, working and sweating to build up their countries. Just as the Virginia colonists hacked away through the swamps of Jamestown, the Jewish pioneers hacked their way through the swamps of the Jezreel Valley. Just as the Pilgrims scratched down a living in the rocky soil of New England, the Jewish Legion veterans made a desert bloom. And once they settled their lands, both peoples fought valiantly to claim their freedom. When you read Israel's Declaration of Independence with its stirring promises to protect the freedom and equal citizenship of all, you encounter the spirit of America's Declaration of Independence. When you learn about Israel's war for independence, you can't help but hear echoes of the American Revolution. Just as Sam Adams thundered in favor of independence, Zev Jabotinsky sounded a clarion call for the Jewish state. Just as Alexander Hamilton joined the New York militia to defend his home state, Moshe Dayan defended his country's capital by commanding the Jerusalem front. And just as we, the American people, revere our founder, George Washington, the Israeli people revere their founding father, David Ben-Gurion. There were plenty of bleak times in the American Revolution, just as there have been bleak times when Israel was locked in a seemingly endless war. Yet here we stand, stronger than ever, two modern-day Davids prevailing against all the odds in the world. So I close by asking this simple question. How can one read our two people's histories and fail to see the hand of providence guiding the affairs of mankind? In the struggle between good and evil, between righteousness and wickedness, between freedom and slavery, you may take your resolution with the knowledge that he is not neutral in that struggle. And we can all be confident that after all is said and done, after all the ups and downs, Zion and the new Zion will prevail in that struggle, and freedom will not perish from this earth. And I want to thank you all for what you do in that struggle, for the hardships you undertake, for the long distances you travel, for the advocacy you promote, for the prayers you give to people like me and my peers in Congress, our nation's leaders, for the people of Israel and their leaders. It means more than you can ever know. So I'll simply close by saying thank you and God bless you. God bless the United States, and God bless the nation of Israel.